Hey guys, so today we are going to be talking about inches, feet, and yards and kind of how to compare them and what to measure with each. So it was I didn't really know how to show a video of me measuring things, so I kind of took pictures of some things about those lengths to kind of show you. So 1 foot is 12 inches. Remember we said an inch the other day is about like a paper clip, and 12 inches is what the length of a ruler is if you have a ruler. And then a yard is the biggest out of these three. So an inch is the smallest. Then you have a foot is bigger than an inch. And then the yard is bigger. A yard is 3 feet or 3 rulers, or it is 36 inches if you add up 12, 12, 12. That would be 36. So I'll kind of show you some pictures of items that are each of those and kind of comparing them. So first we have a foot, which is the length of a ruler, which is about 12 inches. So that's about the size of like your big reading textbook, or even like your religion books and things like that. I think are around 11-ish inches, so pretty close. So there's a picture of a folder I have that's it's a little past 11 and a half, so it's close to 12 inches. And my laptop, my MacBook, actually was exactly 12 inches when I measured my keyboard from left to right. So that kind of gives you an idea of some items that are about 1 foot. And then here is, sorry, it's being slow. Here is 1 yard being compared to a ruler. So the pink one down here is my ruler, which is 1 foot or 12 inches. And then the yardstick is 1 yard. And then it can be made up of 3 rulers. So if I had 3 more rulers, which I do not at my house, it would be the same as a yard. So 1 yard equals 3 feet. And then here are some items around my house that are about 1 yard. So if you have some of these things, you can measure them too. So I measured one of my kitchen chairs that I have, and it was almost exactly 1 yard. I measured the height of my kitchen countertops. That also was about 1 yard. And I picked one of my doors and measured from the floor to the doorknob, and that was about 1 yard. So that kind of gives you a good estimate of things that are about 1 yard, and you can kind of, maybe some things in your house are similar. So when you use yards, you're not going to use yards to measure small items. You would use yards to measure big items. So a football field, you've probably heard them talking about yards, like the runner ran, or the quarterback threw for 20 yards, or he ran for 5 yards or something like that. So a football field is really big, so you want to use yards to measure that. You wouldn't use yards to measure smaller items because it wouldn't make sense. So like if you wouldn't use it to measure your height, because 1 yard and 2 yard is such a big difference that it wouldn't be able to give you a good kind of, I guess, measurement of what it is. So if you're measuring something small like a phone or a pen or something like that, you would use inches. If you're measuring like your height, you would use feet, or like a table or things like that. How big your room is, you can measure that with feet. You can also use yards, it depends. And then yards is for like bigger items. So now I'm going to kind of go through our packet for today. Okay, so this kind of repeats what I just said, and we'll go through a couple questions in here that I think are important to go over. So it says you can use a ruler to measure length, and it says this paper clip is about 1 inch. So there's an example of an inch, pretty small, but not as small as centimeters. This book is about 1 foot, and there are 12 inches in a foot. So if there's 1, it's foot. If there's more than 1, it's feet, just like on your body. And the abbreviation for feet is FT. And then over here, it says you can use a yardstick to measure length too, and this bat is about 1 yard. So if you have a baseball bat, that could be similar to a yard, and you abbreviate yard with YD, and then there are 3 feet in 1 yard, like I said earlier. And then you can always estimate before you measure. So if they didn't have the ruler, you might think like, oh, maybe that eraser is about 3 inches, and then you measure it and you realize it's actually 2 inches. So estimating is good to kind of help you with measurement. If you're estimating that it's 15 inches and it's only 5 inches, then that means you kind of got to practice on your measurement. If you're estimating like 14 or 16 and it's 15, then that means you're pretty spot on. All right, so there's a couple questions I want to go over. So right here we have a table, like the short side of a table. We have a ball and we have a water bottle, like how tall it is up and down or if it's laying down. So which one of those is about 1 inch? Obviously is the ball. About 1 foot, so that's about the size of a ruler or a book, would obviously be the water bottle. And then the width of your table, I think mine was like 33 inches, so a little shorter than a yard, but still very close to a yard. So that short side of a table would be about 1 yard. All right, so let's talk about the do you understand question. It says, is your height closer to 4 feet or 4 yards, and how do you know? So one of those is a reasonable one, and one of those is completely ridiculous. So if you want to kind of try to take a guess, 4 feet, 4 yards. If you want to pause it so you can think, you can. The one that would be a good estimate for y'all would be about 4 feet. I'm a little over 5 feet, so that kind of makes sense. Y'all be about 4 feet. 4 yards is pretty tall. That would be like 4 of my kitchen chairs stacked on top of each other, like without putting them on top, like, I don't know how to explain it. Or 4 from the doorknob up. 4 of those. 4 yards would be 3, 6, 9, 12 feet. And I don't think any of you or anyone out there is 12 feet tall. So that is a bad guess. All right. We're not going to measure these items. We're going to go over this one though. It says, what is the best unit to measure the length of a baseball card? So baseball cards are pretty small, maybe like an index card size. So the best length to measure a small item like that would be inches. And a couple more questions. All right, Calvin, that's my dad's name. Calvin measures the length of a car. He says it is 3 units long. Circle the unit Calvin used, okay? So 3 inches would be about like less than half a piece of paper. So obviously if we're talking about a real car, we're not going to use inches. 3 feet would be about a yardstick, which was about how tall my counters are. And if we're talking how long a car is, a real car, that's definitely going to be too short. So our best estimate for that would be about 3 yards. I've never actually measured my car, but I think it would be pretty close to that. All right, our next one says, this is going to be our last one. Which is an inch in length? So talking about a real item. So a calendar, I would say, is probably close to a foot. So that's not an inch. An inch, that would be too tiny of a calendar. You wouldn't be able to write anything. An umbrella, it depends. I mean, I guess if you have one like that, that's probably closer to a yard. Or if you have the ones that fold up, they're probably closer to a foot. But definitely umbrellas are not an inch. They would not keep you dry. All right, we have a little grasshopper or a little bug here, and bugs are pretty small, so that's a good guess, but let's double check just to make sure. And we have a table. Obviously, no one has a table that's 1 inch the size of a paperclip because you wouldn't be able to use it for anything. If you have a yardstick or a ruler and want to find some things, it says go outside and try to find things that are about 1 inch, a foot, and a yard long. So obviously, measuring, if you have the tools, you can practice measuring anything in your house. So hopefully that helps.